little concerned that we put so much power in the hands of our celebrities, but at the same time, go for it, use it. It is a powerful thing.
Bo Derek was Hollywood's perfect 10, but behind that perfect image was a nightmare she couldn't escape. How could someone so beautiful suffer so deeply? What was the true cost of being the world's most adored? You won't believe how the fame from 10 spiraled into a life of manipulation, control, and personal turmoil. How? Behind the whole fame, Bo faced challenges in her marriage and self-worth that no one ever saw coming. The world's ultimate beauty. Bo Derek wasn't just a movie star, she was the movie star. After her role in 10, everything changed. People didn't just see her as an actress, they saw her as the embodiment of beauty. That iconic scene where she runs on the beach with her long hair flowing, it became a symbol of the perfect woman, and Bo became the symbol. But behind that perfect image, things weren't as flawless as they seemed. Being called the 10 wasn't as glamorous as it looked. At first, it might sound like a dream come true. Who wouldn't want to be the world's definition of beauty, right? But for Bo, it came with a major price. People only wanted to talk about her appearance, not her talent or her personality. She wanted to be seen for more than just her looks. But no one cared. When you're as famous as she was, everyone starts looking at you like you're some kind of object. You're not a person anymore. You're a brand, a product to be admired or criticized, depending on how well you fit into the public's idea of perfection. She didn't have the freedom to just be herself. She was trapped in this perfect image that everyone created for her. It was like being locked in a golden cage. The world adored her for what she represented, beauty, elegance, and grace, but at the same time it ignored everything else that made her who she was. The problem with being labeled perfect is that you can never show any flaws. If you do, it's like you're breaking the image people have built around you. This pressure wasn't something Bo could shake off. The more people praised her for her looks, the more trapped she became. It's hard to even imagine what it's like to have the entire world see you as just a pretty face. She couldn't walk down the street without someone shouting, "Hey Bo, looking like a perfect 10." Everywhere she went, people were either admiring her or judging her, and she couldn't change that. It wasn't about her acting anymore or her personal life, it was about the look. And that's a heavy thing to carry around. She became a prisoner of the perfect image the world had created for her. The reality of fame, especially the kind of fame that comes from being the perfect 10, is far from glamorous. It comes with a burden that no one tells you about. The pressure to maintain that image, to always look perfect, is enough to make anyone feel like they're losing themselves. For Bo, it wasn't just about being admired, it was about being stuck in a box that the world had put her in. She couldn't go anywhere without being recognized for that one thing, the image of perfection. She wasn't allowed to be anything else. No one cared about her personal struggles or what she wanted out of life. She was just the ideal image, the dream woman. And that meant she could never take a step back or let anyone see her as less than perfect. And the worst part? Bo couldn't escape it. Her fame was tied to her image, and it was all because of 10. She couldn't just be herself. The world didn't care about who she was beneath the surface. All they cared about was the woman on the beach, the 10. And it was a constant battle for Bo to show that she was more than that. But for a while she was trapped, unable to break free from the expectations tied to her perfect image. Life behind the camera. Bo's life behind the scenes wasn't as glamorous as her role in 10. While the world adored her for being the perfect woman, her personal life was filled with hidden struggles. Her marriage to John Derek, a famous director, was more complicated than anyone could imagine. On the outside, they appeared like a picture-perfect Hollywood couple, but inside things were far from ideal. John Derek's influence over Bo was enormous. He was both her mentor and husband, guiding her career but also controlling her life in ways that no one saw. While he played a major role in her rise to fame, it came at a heavy cost. John was a man with strong opinions, and Bo, being so young and eager to succeed, often found herself giving in to his demands. On the one hand, he helped her land roles and gave her a platform, but on the other, he isolated her from the world. It wasn't just about making career decisions. John controlled what Bo wore, how she spoke, and even who she interacted with. While she may have been known for her beauty, behind closed doors, she was struggling to define who she truly was. The pressure to conform to John's vision was overwhelming, and while she loved him, his control over her life started to wear her down. The more she gave up control, the more isolated she became. The world saw her as the perfect woman, but in reality, she wasn't even sure who she was anymore. She was living in a world where she was praised for her looks, but the relationship she had with John made her feel invisible in ways that went deeper than just beauty. Despite everything, Bo found herself torn between gratitude for John's help and the growing feeling that she was losing her own identity. She had become so entwined with John's image of her that she couldn't separate her own desires from what he wanted. This struggle wasn't just about career choices or marriage, it was about her very sense of self. John's control was subtle at first, but it became more obvious as time went on. He would often push her to take roles or make appearances she wasn't comfortable with, and when she disagreed, he would make her feel like she was ungrateful. It was as though her success was entirely dependent on his approval, which left Bo questioning her worth outside of his approval. Her sense of self was slowly eroding, and she began to wonder if she could ever find freedom within this marriage. It wasn't just about breaking free from Hollywood's expectations. Bo had to fight to find herself outside of the man she had come to rely on. Could she break free from his influence, or was she doomed to live in the shadow of someone else's dreams? This battle wasn't just about love or fame. It was about Bo finding her own voice and discovering who she truly was beyond the role of the perfect woman, controlled by someone else's vision. The dark side of fame. Fame is often seen as something everyone wants, but for Bo Derek, it wasn't the dream it appeared to be. After 10, she became the definition of beauty, admired by millions. But this fame wasn't just glamorous. It felt like an emotional prison. The public didn't see her as a person. They saw her as the perfect woman, the symbol of unattainable beauty. And as the pressure to maintain that image grew, Bo found herself slowly losing sight of who she really was. Fame felt like a reward, but it was also a constant reminder of the pressure to be flawless. Everywhere she went, all eyes were on her, watching, judging, expecting her to be perfect. It was like being trapped in a glass box where everyone could see her, but no one truly knew her. The world wanted her to keep up the image of the perfect 10, and she couldn't escape it. Bo never signed up to be the world's definition of beauty. She didn't choose to become a symbol of what others thought was perfection. The role she played in 10 was just that, a role. It was an image of what others wanted to see, not who she truly was. Bo was more than just a pretty face, but as her fame grew, so did the expectations. People didn't care about the real Bo, they only cared about the one they saw in the movies and magazines. As her popularity skyrocketed, so did the weight of her public persona. What started as a dream come true soon became a heavy burden. Every time she stepped outside, she had to carry the image of perfection, whether she liked it or not. She couldn't even live in the moment without thinking about how others were seeing her. Bo began to wonder if anyone would ever know her for who she really was, or if she'd always be trapped by the image everyone else had created. The public loved her for being flawless, but that same perfection was becoming her prison. The attention she received wasn't about her as a person. It was about the idea of her. She could no longer make mistakes or show any vulnerabilities. If she did, she'd risk shattering the perfect image everyone had of her. It wasn't just exhausting, it was soul-crushing. The fame that was supposed to open doors for her had actually locked her in a cage. Every day, Bo fought to maintain that image, but inside she was struggling. She was more than just the woman on the beach in 10, more than the 10 the world saw. But the harder she tried to show the real her, the more the world seemed to pull her back into the box they'd put her in. Fame had become a constant reminder of her worth being tied to her looks and the role she played. She couldn't escape the feeling that the world was seeing her as someone she wasn't. and that was a prison she couldn't break free from. Marriage to John Derek. Bo Derek's marriage to John Derek wasn't just a romance, it was a partnership built on control and manipulation. From the outside, their life together appeared perfect, with John supporting Bo's career and guiding her to superstardom. But beneath the surface, there was a darker reality. At first glance, their relationship seemed like a dream come true, but John's control over Bo slowly began to suffocate her, turning love into a struggle for freedom. John wasn't just her husband, he was also her manager. While that may seem like a good thing for an up-and-coming actress, it quickly became apparent that John didn't just control Bo's career. He controlled her entire life. Every choice she made, from what roles she could take to where she could go and who she could talk to, was shaped by him. He managed her image, her career, and to some extent, even her personal life. She wasn't free to make decisions on her own. She was forced to live in a world that John created for her. While their marriage was filled with love, it was also filled with tension. Bo was living her dream career, but at what cost? She often felt trapped in a relationship that demanded everything from her. John saw her as more than a partner. He saw her as an investment, a product. He wasn't just helping her succeed, he was dictating the terms of her success. As Bo became more famous, John's hold on her grew stronger. He controlled her public appearances, chose which directors she worked with, and even determined what public image she would maintain. To the outside world, she was the epitome of Hollywood beauty, his perfect creation. But behind closed doors, she felt suffocated. Bo didn't want to be controlled. She wanted to live her life on her own terms. But every time she tried to make decisions independently, John was there, reminding her of the image she had to maintain and the career she had to protect. Could Bo ever break free from the man who had shaped both her career and identity? Could she learn to see herself beyond the person John had made her into? The question remained, was it possible for Bo to discover who she was without John's shadow constantly looming over her? Despite the deep love she had for John, there was a growing sense of isolation that Bo couldn't ignore. Her career might have flourished, but at the cost of her personal freedom. As she battled with these feelings of entrapment, it became harder to ignore the cracks in their relationship. She felt as though she had become more of an object than a person. Would she ever be able to escape from his controlling grasp and find her own path? Or was she doomed to remain under his thumb forever? The breaking point. The tipping point came when the emotional toll of trying to maintain her image became too much for Bo to bear. For years, she had lived her life according to the expectations of others. She had become Hollywood's perfect 10, the image of unattainable beauty that everyone looked to. But the constant pressure to be flawless was starting to tear her apart from the inside. The pressure of being perfect became too much for Bo, and soon she found herself questioning everything: her marriage, her career, and most painfully, her identity. Bo had spent so many years playing a role that the line between who she truly was and who she was expected to be had blurred. She was no longer sure of where her dreams ended and where the dreams of others began. All she knew was that she had become trapped in an image, an identity she didn't even recognize anymore. The world saw her as perfect, Hollywood's ideal woman. But for Bo, the price of perfection was too high. Her life had become a never-ending battle to meet other people's expectations. She was always on display, always performing for the cameras, and always expected to be flawless. It was exhausting, both mentally and emotionally. Bo didn't want to be the world's perfect image anymore. She wanted to find herself. But after years of living for others, she didn't know how to get back to the person she once was. As the weight of these expectations grew unbearable, Bo was forced to face the harsh reality that she couldn't keep pretending. She had spent her entire career hiding behind a facade, but the emotional breakdowns were a wake-up call. She was no longer willing to live the life that others had defined for her. But what would her life look like without the perfect image she had worked so hard to maintain? Would she still be loved? still be celebrated? Or would the world turn its back on her once she broke free from the mold they had created for her? The pressure to maintain her perfect image had become a cage, and Bo knew that in order to survive, she had to break out. As she began to crumble under the pressure, she had to face a terrifying truth. She had built a life around the expectations of others, and now she was struggling to remember who she truly was. Could she reclaim her identity and find peace, or would she continue to be consumed by the image that had made her famous? With every passing day, the pressure only intensified, but Bo knew that something had to change. The world would have to see her for who she truly was, not the perfect woman they had imagined. Life after John Derek's death. John Derek's death in 1998 marked a major turning point for Bo Derek. For so many years, John had been a dominant presence in both her career and personal life, shaping who she was both publicly and privately. His death left her not just grieving the loss of her husband, but also facing the daunting reality that she was now completely on her own. Grief weighed heavily on Bo, but the true shock came when she realized she was finally free to shape her own life away from his control. The loss was overwhelming. After being so intertwined with John for decades, Bo felt as though a part of her had been taken when he passed. But as the grief began to settle in, she started to see something unexpected, a sense of freedom that she had never experienced before. John had controlled so much of her life, her career, and even her image. Now, with him gone, she had the space to rebuild herself on her own terms. For years, Bo had lived in the shadow of someone else's expectations. Even though their relationship had been loving, it had also been limiting. John's influence over her life shaped everything from the roles she took to the way she presented herself to the world. Now, with him gone, Bo had to figure out who she truly was, independent of anyone's influence. Bo didn't just have to heal from the emotional weight of losing John. She had to completely redefine who she was, her career, her image, and even her purpose in life. Her journey wasn't just about getting back to normal. It was about rediscovering herself in a world that had once defined her based on the expectations of others. She could no longer hide behind the perfect image she had maintained for so long. It was time to rebuild from the inside out. Bo had the chance to create a life that was truly hers, not one shaped by the control of a man who had dominated her world for decades. As she started to rebuild, it wasn't just about career choices. It was about her sense of self. She had spent so much of her life as Hollywood's perfect woman, and now she had the opportunity to break free from that. But could she? Could Bo redefine herself in a way that felt true to who she really was? Rebuilding wasn't easy. The emotional toll of losing John was hard to overcome, and there were moments when she doubted if she would ever fully recover. But with each step she took towards healing, Bo realized that freedom came with its own challenges. Being free from John's control meant being free to make decisions on her own, decisions that would shape the rest of her life. The world may have seen Bo Derek as a symbol of beauty and perfection, but now, without the influence of John Derek, she could see herself as something more, a person with her own desires, dreams, and goals. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving in a new chapter of her life. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Hit the bell icon to stay updated, and click on the next video popping up on your screen. See you next time.